Woohoo! All right, warming it up. I always think about that. Sometimes just to trick people, I'll say like, "Oh, the internet is slow because it's cold outside, and the pipes constrict, and and I'm a little bit surprised at how many people believe that. So of course that just encourages me to keep doing that because it's funny. Sure,
You don't want to mislead people, though.
The pipes are cold, so it slows down the data flow. Yeah, apparently that could be a little too real in some parts of the country or the world.
Yes.
So that's fair. I shouldn't be mean. I don't mean to be mean. I find it hilarious, but like, yes, it all spawns back to that time years and years ago. Somebody in federal government, I think, said like, the internet is a series of tubes. And so I'm like, okay, the tubes are cold, so they're like moving slowly. But we're here. We're warming up the tubes of the internet.
Yes.
See folks joining us. Let us know if you're out there. Let us know where you're joining us from. I am in Georgia, in the U.S. Kevin, I believe you're in Florida in the U.S.
That is correct.
I can never quite tell.
It is a fine sunny day here.
Yes. It's sunny here too, but it's cold. I see someone from the snowy woods north of Toronto. That sounds gorgeous. Let's be honest. That sounds amazing. Louisville. Hi, Jack. How you doing? Oh, Madrid, Spain. I am so jealous. A friend posted a photo of themselves quarantining in Spain, and I was like, this is beautiful. It's much better than, well, my own personal backyard.
Yes.
Right? It was gorgeous. Oh, Norway, Texas, windy Kansas. Yep. Pennsylvania, South Jersey. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. We are so glad you're here.
Hello.
We're going to get started in just another minute or so. Yes. Chilly upstate South Carolina, Ohio for sure. Oh, hey, Celissa. Heavy rainstorms in Hawaii. Hey, Liz, Scotland. Oh, so jealous. I am ready. Bethany, that reminds me of the first winter I spent in Chicago. And someone said on the train to me, as I'm wearing 400 layers of every item of clothing that I own, long johns under a business suit is a good look. So, right. So they said to me, oh, how are you liking your first Chicago winter? And I just looked at them and said, the way you said first implies that there will be another one. And I assure you, this is it for me. I am done. So, yeah, that was pretty short-lived. Chicago is such a great town, but those winters, they call it the Windy City for a lot of reasons. And the actual wind is one. So yes. Welcome everybody. I think we are ready to go ahead and get started. We are going to talk about power words today.
Okay. Words.
Yeah, Kevin's background is words. The word made up of
power words.
So
maybe it's a little bit too creative today, but
it's
I'll run with it.
Kind of Inception-esque. It's meta. We'll go with that. So what are power words? In general, power words are words that have a proven emotional effect on your readers. So whether it's positive or negative, we'll get into some of that when we show you some of the results from AutoCrit. But these words can immediately conjure a feeling in your readers. Things like silky or smooth, or even something negative like violated, or curiosity with words like extraordinary, or kind of an awe-inspiring word. So fantastic ways to efficiently trigger emotions in your reader just by picking the correct word. So I would love to know, everyone watching this live stream, what are some of your favorite power words? Whether they're good, positive, inspirational, gut-wrenching, kinds of, what are some of your favorites? Put them in the comments for us. Kevin, what about you? You have a lot to choose from there on your green screen.
Yes.
So.
I don't know. It depends on it obviously depends on the spot, but usually words that are like stunning or things like that are kind of, a little bit better than saying like pretty or nice. You say that was stunning. That was amazing. Things are, you start figuring out some of these descriptor words that help you eliminate some of the weaker ones, I guess you could say.
Yes. Instead of saying really pretty, I like stunning.
Yep.
Ooh, linger, good one. That gives a little bit of a melancholy. You're lingering, you don't want to go. Tender is very emotionally evocative for me. So great ones. Good job out there, everyone. Now keep in mind, these can be verbs, nouns, adverbs, whatever part of speech they could be.
Yep.
Cruelty, annihilate, silky, eagerly. Now we talk a lot, Kevin and I and Gareth talk a lot about adverbs and how terrible they are. They're not always terrible. You just want to limit them. And the same goes for power words. If you pack your manuscript full of these really emotional words, it can really lead to reader fatigue. They'll get overwhelmed, right? It's just too much. It's too constant. It
starts sounding like a commercial, right? You start like a car commercial or a mattress commercial. If you want to look for power words, look at a lot of advertising, because advertisers love to use power words, a ton of them. Because they're trying to get you emotionally involved with whatever it is they're trying to sell or convince you, or because these words are very persuasive, and that's kind of the whole point of them. But if you overuse them, I don't know, is it that if with great power comes great responsibility? Is that too cliche? I don't know. I throw these things out there. It kind of makes me think about it. So like, you want to use them, but you don't want to overuse them. And there's always a fine line there depending on your style.
Exactly right, Kevin. If you just like glitter, a little goes a long way with things.
But some people like glitter. Some people,
hey, that's
put it in your hair. I don't know.
Who do you think you're talking to? I've got glittery things all around me. But honestly, a little does go a long way. So be judicious when you're reviewing your manuscript and when you're running your power words reports. Be thoughtful about where you place them and how frequently you use them, and which word exactly you're choosing, because the same type of word, right, can evoke a really different feeling. So if you're saying silky, it's like, if you're saying smooth, it could be someone is a smooth operator. That could be a little negative. Or the ice was smooth, the lake was smooth, meaning it's calm, it's gorgeous. And then slimy, which is kind of related, is typically very grotesque and very like slugs and slimy. Well, I hate to say this, but kind of like the old used car salesman vibe, right? You just get a feeling that it's disgusting. So thinking about how you're describing whatever it is in your scene or about your character or in a conversation, choose those words wisely to make sure you're evoking the correct and intended emotional response. And that'll really apply throughout your whole manuscript. In a few minutes, I'm going to just hand it over to Kevin to talk about in more detail how AutoCrit helps you with that. And I love a pie chart, so we're going to look at a few of those, right?
Colors.
Not mostly, also pie in general, so that's great. But having that view of choosing the right word to evoke a specific response, they kind of go into major categories. And these are the ones that AutoCrit breaks them up for you. Fear, encouragement, lust. Now, it doesn't have to mean sexual lust. It can mean lust for power or, kind of a related to greed, anger, safety, the forbidden or mysterious, excitement or energy. The key here, and you see the glitter in the background, a little goes a long way. Too much of a good thing. Excellent point, Elaine. So having no more than 3 major overarching emotional themes in your manuscript is generally where we hit that sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what I mean. And Kevin's got some other real live examples, but let's look at, now 3 is not a hard and fast rule. You'll see other words coming in, other themes, but it's all about that ratio, how big those pie slices are. So Interview with the Vampire, Anne Rice's legendary novel. What do we think? It's about vampires, obviously, but let's think about the emotional vibe that she focuses on throughout there. You got any guesses, Kevin? Anybody out there in the group got some guesses for us?
I'm gonna say there's some lust and fear in there.
I would say that is probably very accurate. Yes. So major fear, but tempered with encouragement. And that is generally how we see that breakup. You have a lot of fear. You've got that lust. I mean, the vampire Lestat, handsome fella, you know, but lust for power, lust for human blood, lust for Tom Cruise playing that vampire, maybe. Balancing things like fear and lust with a little bit of encouragement. You see that starts to balance out your reader's feelings. If you're constant fear, and you never get any encouragement, like, well, the encouraging aspect and the idea that there is hope beyond that fear or lust or danger is that's what keeps your readers going, right, Kevin?
That's exactly right. You have to always have to mix it in. There's always got to be, you're pulling the string of your main character, typically protagonist. Hopefully they're going through some troubled times, but there's always that, that glimmer of hope that they're going to pull through.
Absolutely. So a different novel, Blue Moon. This is a Lee Child Jack Reacher novel. So I am going to do fear again. Lots more greed in this one. And you can see he ramped down the anger. So compared to Anne Rice's novel, Interview with a Vampire, more fear, less lust, less anger, but a good balance with encouragement and greed.
Greed comes in there.
Yeah, that surprises me.
Maybe it's a heist. I haven't read that one. Maybe I have. It's been a while.
Right.
But maybe, you could, every time you're talking about money and power and things like that, you get greed thrown in there as well. So there's obviously a power struggle here for sure.
So you can see that these are more obviously focusing on 3 themes. Anne Rice mixes in more complex emotions. The Jack Reacher series tends to be pretty straightforward, and that you can see those big 3 that Lee Child focuses on in his novel Blue Moon right here. Definitely sneaking other feelings in there, because just 3 would be a little bit boring. Temper in a little, but don't overwhelm with constantly shifting emotional themes and tones and arcs, and it just can get a little fatiguing. One thing I want to talk about here, general, right? You can see in Blue Moon, he's got 5 of what AutoCrit labels as general. Now, Kevin, what are those again? Tell me.
Those are power words that are strong, but for whatever reason, they don't really fit well into another category, or they fit in so many categories that we just didn't want to slam it in. Oh, that's got to be lust or something. But no, it could mean a lot of things. They're just words that don't really quite fit in any other category. So it's kind of like a hodgepodge. That's the grab bag of power words there. The
grab bag of power words. I love that. The idea with those general words is that they are, I'm blanking on a power word to describe them. They engage your reader. They are noticeable. They are prompting. They're visible. Usually when you're writing, you're pulling the reader through your words and into the story. And the way you can do that more effectively is through some of these power words, but the general ones just kind of keep the story moving along. They may not necessarily go with a specific emotion. They may go with a mixture of emotions, but they're still there. Someone asked earlier, would 0 be good for general? We've never seen anybody have 0. But,
well, I've seen it only in short works, but if you have any if 10,000 words or something, if you have any work of length, you're probably going to have some. I actually just did a search while you did that in one of my examples, and I found one was blatant was considered a general power word. It's blatant or blatant.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not quite sure where you'd put that, but it's a powerful word, right?
It is a powerful word, and that's a great example because you can see with a word like blatant, it's not exactly the word itself, but the context in which you use it that would trigger maybe a different emotion, right? Exactly. So blatant nepotism, blatant affection, those are kind of it. It's a powerful word coupled with something that drives you toward that emotion. So a general power word can be quite helpful in.
And also, right? Also, if you use blatant too often, it becomes annoying, right? That's a very unique, strong word with lots of syllables and very powerful word.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to throw it in too often.
It is like glitter. Mm-hmm. That is so true. So let's do one more before I hand it over to Kevin. And let me figure out where my mouse pointer went. There it is. Virgin River. Virgin River. Who is this again? I've forgotten her name. It's a romance author. Romance book. Oh no, it's killing me.
It's killing me too.
She's gonna be so angry with us. I'm gonna just move on and talk about. Look at her balance. Look how much encouragement is in there. Now, obviously, it's a romance, so some of that more romantic language and some of the more intimate scenes would get into lust. And in Virgin River, there's that fear of like, are they going to be together? Is there a family situation that is stirring some fearful emotions in there? Very little anger, very little greed. A little bit of a forbidden, which I found really interesting because, it could be a forbidden romance. It could be a forbidden, like, don't take that cookie from the cookie jar. It really could be anything, but you can really at a glance with the 3 examples we've given, see and get a feel for what type of book it is. This tells me with all that lust and all that encouragement, it's most likely a romance. And this is where it gets interesting for you as AutoCrit users, right? Mm-hmm. Run your manuscript through it, take a peek at that pie chart, and just double check. Even do it chapter by chapter to just confirm that the emotional tones you're striking in that chapter or in that word. Oh, Robin Carr, thank you very much. Awesome.
You just saved me from staying awake all night tonight.
Yes, that was not going to end well. So I think so. Run your manuscript through AutoCrit, and Kevin will show us how to do that in just a moment. But look at your distribution of power words in this pie chart. Mm-hmm. Make sure you're striking the right emotional tones. And I mentioned just a moment ago, even chapter by chapter. Having a lot of chapters that strike the same emotional note may feel a little repetitive. So if you've got a lot of fear, put in a little encouragement in a chapter and give them a bit of a break from all that fear. I think your readers will appreciate that coming from you. And one question that came from Bruce, sad or depressed generally comes in through fear. When you're sad, it's a fear-based thing, perhaps an anger-based thing.
Anger falls in there too. Mm-hmm. And there's also the safety aspect too. If you're like, mm-hmm. It gets spread around a little bit, but that, sad didn't make our list, I guess, of the buckets.
Yeah. You just have one, like you have a happy face or a sad face of like the simplified power words, like yay or boo. But it is a little bit more nuanced than that because you can feel sad, but why are you sad? Evoking that underlying root cause of your sadness, which is may come from fear or lack of safety or something that was that made you angry, kind of can come into that space. So it's a little bit of everything and a little bit of a therapeutic lesson there for us.
I need a couch now.
Right. No couches. So with that, no couches, because it is time for Kevin to come to the screen with his laptop.
Hold on here.
View. And we're going to show you how to run those power words run your manuscript through the Power Words report, through the summary. The summary will give you this pie chart, and the full version, professional version of AutoCrit gives you the really detailed analysis and where those words are and what context they are used throughout your manuscript. So let's take a look.
Sure. So I actually ran the detailed summary first, and this is the one you get as a free version that's located. It'll be in your summary report. But if you want to run if you have a paid version of AutoCrit, you can go under word choice, and there's a Power Words over here on the far right. Just run it, and you'll get this nice little graph here on the right that'll tell you as well where you stand. In this case, I am doing a Brenda Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Brenda Jackson is also a romance, if you're wondering what we have here. As you can see, she has quite a bit of lust and not much fear, and there goes the encouragement. So this is pretty much a one-sided approach. Maybe you can call it 2 and 3, but it's it's very, very, very focused on the romance side of things here. But I use it as a good example, because when you look in your text, let me hide this on the side so you can see a little better. You can see the power words jump out. These are the encouraging power words as they come through. And like gamble, that shows up as a greed power word based on the coloration.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see she's very, she uses power words all the time. I hate to say overused. Like I said, maybe this is her audience and she expects it, but this is, especially at the start, she's really laying it on to get you sucked into the story. So there's a difference between what you would use in chapter 1 and perhaps what you use in chapter 4 as well. That whole first chapter, setting the hook, really getting your reader engaged. Power words up front can be helpful in that, because it kind of maybe, I hate to say slap your reader, but wake them up a little bit. Like, hey, this is the kind of novel you're going to get. This is what you're looking for, right? So, but I just wanted to focus here too on the fact that, what if we changed one of these power words? What would happen if we swapped spectacular out for, I don't know, something like heart-stopping? The main lobby of the huge building contained a spectacular 80-foot atrium populated with numerous flowers. What if it was heart-stopping? What if it was
intimidating,
overwhelming? If you put intimidating in here, right? Spell it wrong, I'm sure, but if you
make that article an N instead of an A, but yeah,
if you put that there, this turns out, instead of a romance novel, you might be thinking maybe this is a whodunit, or maybe it's some sort of a I don't know, a drama of it changes the feel. You're still using an excellent word to describe something, but you got to be cautious of when you use that word that it's meeting the emotion you're trying to emit. Because right now you're thinking, well, this is something, maybe it's going to be scary. Maybe something in the future is going to happen where this, something drops out of the top of this atrium and lands on you. Or maybe the character at some point has to climb to the top of this building as she's running away from an attacker. You know what I'm saying? You feel that that emotion is brought forward just by the use of the word. The sentence says exactly the same thing, but it has a totally different feel to it. So that's kind of the power of power words, and I want to bring that to your attention. Just swapping them out can make a big difference.
And I think the contextual example that Kevin is showing right now leads us to the next step, which is, would you really want to say an intimidating 80-foot atrium populated with flowers and plants? Because the intimidating
yes.
gives you, right? So it gives you one vibe with intimidating, and as you read on, you kind of give your reader a bit of whiplash with, okay, but there are flowers and plants and a breathtaking, tinkling waterfall, not intimidating vibes through the rest of that sentence and paragraph. So think about not just looking at the exact word, and this is what AutoCrit does so well, is show you that word in context and let you make those decisions throughout the sentence / paragraph or even the scene.
Exactly. So if you're going to rework this scene, intimidate, maybe you should say in a huge rushing waterfall instead of breathtaking tinkling waterfall. Kind of, if it's intimidating, then you got to kind of keep with that same vibe. Otherwise, like Beth said, you're going to get whiplash, or you're going to, it's not wrong, but it doesn't feel right. And that's kind of like we're talking about feelings here. So this is definitely not a black or white issue. It's definitely in the gray area.
Although this is like the only time Kevin's going to talk about feelings. When we do a power word, like that's just Mr. Yeah.
So Anyway, I'll move on past from that. Thank you, Beth.
I couldn't resist.
So obviously you can go through, you can check out your entire manuscript. I always think it's fun. This is one of those reports that I love because I think it's just fun, right? It's interesting. It's something you probably do closer to the end of your editing life than rather the beginning. So much as kind of one of those things when you go into the polish to make sure you've hit those high points or low points that you're looking for with the words. So with that in mind, I always like looking at some extremes, and I like when I do these testing type things, to see how do other authors do it and get a good feel for it. So I ran. I was always curious. That Harry Potter is an excellent thing to look at, right? Because it's such a long series, and it starts out pretty much as a young adult and almost goes to regular old adult version of it, or the age range kind of travels with it in the writing. So I was curious when I was looking at doing this presentation, like how do the power words change in that regard? So this is what the power words look like for the Harry Potter 1, Sorcerer's Stone. So you see this fear and there's encouragement and not much lust and a lot of the forbidden, right? And then I said, well, all right, let's check out the number 3, and you'll notice that the fear bumped up a little bit. Right? And then I went to the last Harry Potter and look how it keeps turning. So, and also in addition to that, look at the lust grew as the kids got older as well. So just kind of interesting that the words that were used, J.K. Rowling used, changed. Her power words changed as the kids grew going through the Harry Potter series. There's a lot of been analysis out there about the length of the books obviously got longer. They got more complex. The readability got a little bit more complex, and the topics and the idea of it. It's much more of like I said, more of an adult book when you get to the end of it. But she also changed the use of her power words as well, and it's kind of just interesting because most of the time a lot of authors will stick to the same. If you look at the power words from one book to the next, they're pretty consistent with their word usage. Like they have their own bag of tricks that they pull from these authors do. So they're like, if you're a horror author, you can pretty much stay. But I thought this was interesting in a series to see it change from the same author in the same series, but her word usage shifted to meet her needs as she went forward through the series. So I always thought that was kind of interesting. You don't have to think that you're stuck with one way, especially if you're writing a long epic fantasy or science fiction or something like that. You can obviously manipulate your words that you use as you go forward. It's a really helpful tool.
Yes.
So let me pick this one here. All right. So this one I thought was huge in encouragement. This is Karen Slaughter, The Silent Wife. And this is the most encouraging I've ever seen
It's a thriller, right?
It's a thriller, yes. And so it's a thriller between fear and encouragement. This is a definite two-sided story. And in fact, the encouragement is even more. We got more encouragement than you have fear. We have 1,015 in encouraging words and 797 in fear. So that's kind of unusual. Usually, fear kind of almost always a little bit stronger in a lot of these thriller types. But I thought this was a very interesting case study. Like really, and then so you have to kind of dive in and look at that where she was pulling all these encouraging words. But I thought that was an interesting finding to have that much encouraging power words in the same document. So let's jump to the next interesting extreme I found.
Ooh, what is this? Oh,
Brenda Jackson.
Yeah.
Back to Brenda Jackson. It's back to lust. So, and it doesn't always have to be this way, but you're also, when you're looking at your power words, this is really kind of an identification of who your audience is and what they expect from you, especially somebody like Brenda Jackson or somebody that has, if you have a following, you're a well-known author, or you, even if you're not well-known, but you have a following of readers that kind of pick your books up, you kind of have to give them what they want to a certain extent, which is why I think it's been famously done. I think Stephen King did it too. You have the pen name of somebody else if you're going to write a different type of book, because right. You switch it up a little bit if you're gonna do something different, because what happens is your same group of people will buy that book and say, that's not a romance, that was a horror story, or whatever it was that you decided to write. So you got to be somebody careful with that. If you're kind of giving them a promise based on including the book cover design and who you are, this is kind of they've kind of bought into your brand. So your power words a little bit play into your brand as well, I find. Of who you are and what it is you're trying to achieve, and that's what your audience is expecting. So kind of give people what they want. It's always a good recipe for success.
Now, a lot of the power words that Kevin is running on other authors' books can
Mhm.
be found in our What's the Score series. The blog posts are available at autocrit.com/WTS for What's the Score. That'll take you right to it. So you can check out all the power words and all the other details in our What's the Score reports for some of our most popular authors and get a feel for how each author crafts their story a little bit differently from the power words point of view.
Mhm. And that's always a great idea to look at what other people are doing.
Mhm.
Really, I think the best form of flattery is imitation to a certain extent, but not necessarily imitate the exact words, but just styles and how do they achieve. There's a reason why some of these people are successful, right?
Mhm.
So you have to kind of see how do they put that heart-wrenching fear in my stomach and that they become successful in doing that particular genre. And you
Mhm.
just kind of pay real attention to the words other authors are using and how they use them and how often they use them. I think you can learn a lot, and you become a better writer by doing that. Not necessarily stealing from it, but learning from other people and how they do things well is always a great way to improve yourself as an author for sure.
Lots of reading, lots of writing. Oh, who's this?
So I put this one in because I thought it was very interesting. This is Ursula K. Le Guin, Worlds of Exile. It's kind of like a science fiction. I think it was in the 50s. It was a little bit of an older story, but I thought it was really interesting that she really doesn't have a primary three, like you were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
Most authors have one, two, or three primary emotions they're trying to tug through, and this one didn't.
That
Not
is
even close.
fantastic.
It's
No,
almost like an even pizza slice here, where everybody got the
right?
same amount, right? And so I thought it was fascinating that you don't necessarily have to pick one emotion and stick with it to have an excellent story as well. You can use power words, spread them out, and pull from different areas, but you have to be cautious when you do that, of course, because you're pulling people a lot of different ways, like with the forbidden and the greed, and you have a lot of different actions going on here.
Mhm.
It's not impossible to do; it can happen, but you know, you're playing a lot of different strings when you do have a pie chart that looks like this.
And that gets into more thoughtful placement of your power words and not doing the whiplash in the midst of a sentence or a scene or a paragraph, but really taking your readers on a very specific journey, right? So
Hmm.
having an encouraging section or chapter, then into more of a lustful one or a forbidden one. It is all about if you're going to spread the emotional themes around more, it's very important to be thoughtful about how you do that and the journey that you're taking your reader on throughout.
Definitely. So let's jump on the next one. All right. So
No.
this is an interesting one. I want to finish without looking at the top. Don't cheat. Does anybody know what kind of book this would be?
Well, it's Brandon Sanderson,
Yes,
so sci-fi fantasy.
exactly. When I first
Oh,
saw this, without
sure, yeah.
knowing the name, you'd think this would be a horror or
Yeah, that's a
something from
good
Stephen
point.
King or something like that. But it's not. It's Brandon Sanderson. It's actually science fiction. And I was confused about it. What the heck? What is all this fear going on? Because this is a lot of fear
Mhm.
going on here. And it turns out that it's not one of his fantasy works. It's more of I guess, a traditional science fiction or Matrix X type book he wrote as a shorter story, not one of his epics. And it was a guy that was going insane and had a
Oh.
lot of people talking in his head. And so that makes sense. Somebody that was doing a lot of internal thinking and a lot of fear about this guy going crazy, basically. So don't think that just because your power words show this, like, oh, I'm writing I'm not going to, this book isn't going to work, right? It can work. You just have to be, what kind of fear are you trying to portray? Is
Hmm.
it true fear, or is it fear of something that isn't quite as scary as that would be found in a horror? This could even almost be a romance if there's a breakup and you're
Mhm.
most of the story you're falling apart and there's fear of losing somebody or those kind of things too. Just because the power words show one way doesn't mean it has to be that type of genre. So I'm trying to, obviously some of the examples we showed, like, oh, this has to be romance. But you got to be careful because power words can be used in a lot of different ways and a lot of different types of stories. And so it's a pretty good tool in your tool chest if you can go ahead and pull that out. In fact, I zoomed in on this and you see that he uses crazy a lot, which comes up with
Yeah.
fear. The guy's going crazy, right? So I don't know, there's a couple other things in there that I found. Um, volatile, but anyway, a lot of the words that were used were in relation to him having psychological issues and losing his mind. So I thought that was interesting. This wasn't really a horror story, but it had a little bit of a horror aspect of it too when you're losing control of your own mind. So it's kind of like a horror sci-fi, I guess you could say, to that extent. But anyway,
Wow.
you can see that different authors can definitely switch their writing styles based on what they're writing, for sure.
That is fascinating. The different types of fear within there absolutely make a difference. The goal ultimately as authors is to just be intentional about the emotions you're evoking. I don't want to say like you have to have 73% fear blah, 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 for anything. It is a way to ensure you're evoking the right or the intended emotions, right?
Yes.
If you're writing a romance and you have very little lust or encouragement, that might be difficult. That might not really hit the mark that you're trying to hit with your readership. So whether, there's no right or wrong answer with the pie chart, the recommendation of hitting 3 major themes, also just a rule of thumb, but being intentional about it and giving you the visibility to say, oh, I have way too much fear in this book. Let's get in there and see chapter by chapter, where are my fear words? Where am I really doubling down a little too much on fear?
Yes.
If that's not the emotion you want to convey. I'm going to pull our faces back in here.
Yes. And that's the thing, like Brandon Sanderson, we just did, I think it was even yesterday we did it. What's the score on one of his books? It was 420,000 word epic fantasy, right?
Yes.
This book was, I think, around 100,000 or less, the one I just ran through, in completely different style from a word usage perspective. It's still very well written, still excellent, but he was trying to pull off a different feel in this work versus his epic fantasy, which he wrote, I don't know, 2 years earlier or something. In fact, actually, this one just came out, but he put on a different hat, and that's a good test and skill for the authors out there who want to practice and do these things. Try these techniques out, because you can be amazed at how much different you can make your work sound and be, and you kind of grow as a writer and have an extra tool in your tool chest. Like, all right, this is going to be a scary scene I'm going to throw in, so you kind of practice these things.
I love that idea. And I think there is an opportunity for novelists in general to use little short story challenges. The Destination Unknown challenge that we run every month in our author community might be a great opportunity for novelists to, one, practice even just more ruthless word efficiency and try writing in a different genre. Try having a different emotional theme than what you're comfortable with, because it could be just a lot of fun and great practice to say, okay, and here's my challenge for my NaNoWriMo participants. Take your manuscript to date, however many words that is, because I know we're getting lots of words because we're doing great. We're crushing it. But run your manuscript as is through the AutoCrit tool. Look at that pie chart of your power words and see where it comes up. I'm going to do mine today. I'm so excited. I have no idea what it's going to tell me. And when I say excited, I might mean terrified. I have no idea what it's going to tell me.
It's true.
I am very intrigued by this, but I also want to see what themes I've hit in the first. I'm a little behind, so 10,000 words, and how I want my story to progress differently in the next half, in the final 2 weeks or so of NaNoWriMo. Are you on track with your power words? Are you on track with that emotional theming? Or do you want to think about making some word corrections just as you're getting the words on page? Maybe we love this idea, right? Do some stickies around your workspace, your writing space. what theme are you going for? Think
Mhm.
lust, think greed, think fear, whatever it is that you're trying to evoke. And you can even do that on a chapter by chapter basis. If you sit down in our next write-in, which is tonight, shameless plug. We're doing a write-in tonight for our 7-day badge accomplishment. Today's the 7th day. So we have a write-in at 6:00 tonight. Think maybe about taking a 15-minute sprint. Oh no, I'm totally going to do this. Spoiler, here's what we're going to do in tonight's write-in. We're going to take a power word grouping, encouragement, fear, whatever, and we're going to write a scene of that in a 15 or 30-minute sprint.
Mhm.
What? We're agile. We're just changing things up and incorporating it. Run your power words first.
Yes.
Join us at 6:00 tonight for that write-in. It is going to be so fun. I am extremely excited for this. I can't wait to see what my group says.
Here's another idea for you, Beth. If you're having multi-point of view story,
Oh,
different characters would, if their point of view is being pulled up, would write or think in a different with different power words. So like you're the protagonist, antagonist, or whatever, you maybe there's more fear in this one, less. So you can kind of when you do make a switch, you make the switch with your character's point of view as well.
Ooh, that is interesting. I do like that.
Because I mean, you're a lot of times you put your reader in the head of the person that you're, that's seeing the world at that time. So how would they, what kind of feelings are they trying to convey? So it's one of those kind of, that's like I said, it's every author should have the ability to put on those different hats and try to write it differently. It's going to help you a lot when you do different works.
So when you're thinking about writing from a different character's point of view, including their worldview, their perspective, their experiences, what has shaped that character to be who they are today and make them behave the way they do, they'll have perhaps a unique vocabulary. We just talked about this recently with another group. One character uses these words and another character uses these other words, where maybe it's the dot versus period versus point, kind of conversation. They'll have their unique languages and they're going to have their unique emotional power words perspective as well. So that's a really good idea, Kevin. Nice.
I'm coming to you sometimes.
Are you going to come to our write-in tonight and do that? I think you should. That's fantastic. Well, that kind of wraps it up for us talking about power words today. It's all about using the right word in the right place at the right time, right context, to tug those emotional chords with your readers. Make sure that you're doing it on purpose and that you're evoking the intended emotional response. So
yes, everybody go out there and check it out. Run your
I'm going to run mine right now. I'm terrified because it's nano and I'm just getting words out there. So it may come back and be like, you have 0 power words. You don't know anything. But I'm sure it won't. It's going to tell me.
That's the fun thing about power words. They're not really right or wrong. We don't even give you a recommendation of how often to use them in AutoCrit for that very reason, because, it's kind of really up to you and how your style as an author is. So, but it's always fun. I love to see it.
Great. Oh, let's go find out. Yep, Liz is already saying, I'm going to put my chapters through there. Oh,
you never know. You can get nervous when you press that button. Let us know what happens.
Well, I'm gonna go press that button now. and we will see you all tonight. If you're in the NaNoWriMo with AutoCrit group, the event for our 7-day Badgers write-in tonight, 6 p.m. The event is in there. The Zoom link is in there. We're going to be Zooming. And we'll also broadcast that out to YouTube if you want to join via YouTube instead and be a little bit more socially distanced from us. But if you join us via Zoom, share your camera, wear a costume. I love it. I don't know what costume it would be for a 7-day Badger. I mean, unless you have a Badger outfit, which would be pretty rad.
Halloween was just here. You never know what somebody might pull out.
It's true. I'm sad I missed all the post-Halloween sales, but I at least have multiple riding helmets. Always. Get ready. Let's do it. All right. I'll see everyone this evening for our write-in. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, everybody.
I'll send that over to you, Liz. I got your comment there. I'll make sure you get the link. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.